Most people do not realize the biggest turning points in life do not announce themselves. They arrive looking like an ordinary Monday morning. Ethan Carter was 30 years old, not rich, not famous, and never trying to be either. To him, success was not measured by expensive cars or impressive titles. It was measured by whether he could sleep peacefully at night, knowing he had not wronged anyone. For years, his life followed the same quiet rhythm. Wake up, freshen up, make coffee, go to work. Come home, read a few pages from a book. Sleep, repeat. Some would call it boring, he called it peaceful. One thing about Ethan rarely changed, he never interfered in other people's lives. Everyone had their own choices to make. Everyone had their own battles to fight. As long as those choices did not hurt someone else, he believed they deserved respect. After working at the same company for several years, an unexpected opportunity arrived. A larger company, better salary, better position. A chance to begin again. Without overthinking it, he accepted the offer. His first day felt exactly how every first day feels. New building, new faces, new responsibilities, new expectations. He was not the kind of person who walked into a room trying to impress everyone. He simply observed, listened, learned, and quietly focused on his work. While everyone around him was busy introducing themselves, laughing in small groups, and trying to fit in, Ethan did what came naturally. He opened his laptop, took a deep breath, and began building another ordinary chapter of his life. He had no idea that somewhere inside this office, someone would change everything he believed about trust.
Sometimes, the beginning of the biggest story in your life looks exactly like the beginning of every other day, but among hundreds of unfamiliar faces, which one was about to change Ethan's life forever. Sometimes the people who change your life begin as nothing more than another unfamiliar face at work.
The first few weeks passed quietly. Ethan settled into his new role exactly as he had expected. He arrived on time, finished his work, spoke when necessary, and returned home without thinking much about the people around him. The office was friendly, but he never felt the need to become the center of attention. He believed that respect was earned through actions, not words. Among the many new faces was Sophia Bennett. She worked on a different team, yet their projects occasionally crossed paths. At first, their conversations were no different from anyone else's. A greeting in the hallway, a question about a task, a brief discussion during a meeting. Nothing more. Days turned into weeks. Those short conversations slowly became more comfortable, not because either of them tried to make them longer, but because they happened naturally. Sometimes they laughed over a small mistake at work. Sometimes they exchanged opinions after a meeting. Sometimes they joined a group of colleagues during lunch or while grabbing coffee. There was never a moment that stood out. No dramatic first meeting. No accidental collision. No instant connection. Just two coworkers becoming familiar faces in each other's ordinary days. To Ethan, Sophia seemed cheerful, easy to talk to, the kind of person who could make a routine workday feel a little lighter. He never searched for hidden meanings in their conversations. To him, they were simply colleagues who got along well. Neither of them realized that these ordinary conversations were quietly laying the foundation for something neither of them expected. Because life rarely changes in a single moment. Sometimes, it changes one conversation at a time.
Neither Ethan nor Sophia knew where those conversations would lead. One believed they were building a friendship. The other had not yet realized that friendship was slowly becoming something more. But what happens when one heart moves faster than the other? Feelings rarely ask for permission. They simply arrive and quietly change the way someone sees another person.
Months passed. The conversations continued. Nothing dramatic. Nothing unusual. Work became easier when familiar faces surrounded unfamiliar responsibilities. Among those faces, Sophia had become one of the few people Ethan genuinely looked forward to talking with. It was never planned. It simply happened. One evening, after thinking about it for several days, Ethan made a decision. He believed that honesty was always better than silent assumptions, so he told her how he felt. There were no flowers, no grand gestures, no emotional speeches, just a calm and respectful confession. Sophia listened carefully, then she smiled politely. "I am already in a relationship." That was all Ethan needed to hear. He accepted her answer without asking another question. He wished her well and decided to move forward. A few days later, he noticed she looked especially elegant at work. Without expecting anything in return, he sent a short message. "You looked beautiful today. I just wanted to say that, take care." To Ethan, it was simply a respectful compliment, nothing more. A few minutes later, her reply arrived. "I do not like messages like this." Ethan read it once, then again. He never defended himself. He never explained his intention. He never sent another personal message. From that day forward, he kept every interaction strictly professional. If work required a conversation, they spoke. If it did not, silence became the distance he chose to respect. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Nearly 2 months passed. By then, Ethan believed that chapter of his life had quietly ended. Then one evening, his phone vibrated. The sender's name made him pause. It was Sophia.
He had respected her answer, he had respected her boundaries, he had walked away without looking back. So after 2 months of silence, why was Sophia the one reaching out to him now? Sometimes the person who once closed a door is the same person who returns and knocks on it.
Ethan looked at his phone for several seconds before opening the message. It was simple. Sophia asked how he had been. No explanation. No mention of the past, just a conversation that had unexpectedly returned after 2 months of silence. They exchanged a few messages, then a few more. The conversations slowly became longer. This time there was something different. She finally told him why she had reached out. Her relationship had ended. For a moment, Ethan said nothing. He remembered the day he had confessed his feelings. He remembered the message she had asked him never to send again. Most importantly, he remembered the silence that followed. Even so, he chose not to question the past. He believed people deserved the chance to begin again. Days turned into weeks. Work conversations became evening conversations. Evening conversations became late-night phone calls. Without realizing it, they had become part of each other's daily routine. Eventually, Ethan asked her one question. "Are you certain about this?" Sophia smiled. "Yes." That answer was enough. They entered a relationship. The months that followed felt peaceful. Weekend drives, coffee shops, small trips to places neither of them had visited before, long walks where conversations mattered more than the destination. For the first time in a long while, Ethan allowed himself to imagine a future with someone. He believed he had found a relationship built on honesty. He believed the difficult part of life was finally behind him. He could not have been more wrong.
Sometimes, a relationship does not fall apart because of what happened before it began. It falls apart because of what remained hidden after it began. Ethan believed he finally had honesty. He had no idea that one confession was about to make him question every promise that came before it. What was Sophia about to reveal? People often say that love is built on trust. Very few realize that sometimes, trust breaks long before love does.
The relationship had been moving forward peacefully. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. They had begun imagining a future together. Then one evening, Sophia said she needed to tell Ethan something. There was no argument, no suspicion, no confrontation, just a confession that arrived unexpectedly. She looked at him and quietly admitted, "I lied to you." The room fell silent. Before they had entered the relationship, Ethan had asked her about her past. She had told him that she had never been physically involved with anyone. Now, she admitted that it was not true. While studying at university, she had been in a relationship for nearly 3 years. It had been a serious relationship. And during those years, they had been physically involved many times. Sophia tried to explain why she had lied. She said she was afraid. Afraid that if she had told him the truth in the beginning, he might never have accepted her. Ethan heard every word. But his thoughts had already drifted somewhere else. It was never about her past. Everyone has one. The past could never be changed. What shook him was something entirely different. The woman he loved had looked into his eyes and knowingly chosen a lie over the truth. Every memory from the beginning of their relationship suddenly felt different. Every promise, every conversation, every moment built on trust. He sat there quietly, not because he had nothing to say, but because he did not know what to believe anymore. For the first time in his life, he wondered whether trust, once broken, ever truly returned.
A lie lasts only a few seconds. Its consequences can last a lifetime. If trust had already been broken, What exactly was Ethan fighting to save now? Some relationships do not end the day trust is broken. Sometimes, they continue long after both people know something has changed forever.
Ethan did not walk away. Neither did Sophia. They chose to stay together, not because everything had been fixed, but because both of them hoped time would repair what words could not. Life moved forward, at least on the surface. They still went on dates. They still took short trips together. Some nights were filled with laughter. Some ended in silence after another argument. Whenever they fought, the same wound found its way back into the conversation. The lie. Sophia apologized more than once. Ethan wanted to forgive. He truly did, but forgiveness and trust were never the same thing. He could forgive someone and still struggle to believe them. That became the reality of their relationship. Some days felt beautiful. Others felt exhausting, yet neither of them gave up. They spoke about the future, about the home they wanted, the life they imagined, the family they hoped to build. One evening, while talking about marriage, Ethan shared a dream he had carried for years.
If we ever have children,
He paused.
I would rather adopt one.
Sophia looked at him with surprise. He smiled gently.
There are already so many children waiting for someone to call them family. I would rather give one of them a home than bring another child into a world that already has enough people.
For a few moments, Sophia said nothing. Then she smiled.
If that is your dream, it will be ours.
Hearing those words brought Ethan a rare sense of peace. For a while, he believed that perhaps love was stronger than broken trust. He had no idea. Life was quietly preparing a test far greater than the lie that had already changed everything.
For more than 2 years, they continued building dreams together. But what happens when one person is dreaming about marriage while the other is about to accept a proposal from someone else? Sometimes the sentence that changes your life is spoken so calmly that your heart needs a few seconds to understand what it just heard.
More than 2 years had passed, despite the arguments, despite the broken trust, despite everything they had survived together, they were still together. Ethan believed that one day they would finally leave the past behind. Then one evening, Sophia asked if they could talk. Her voice was unusually quiet. She looked at him for a moment before speaking.
My family introduced me to someone to get married.
Ethan remained silent. She continued.
I'd agreed to marry him.
The world around him seemed to stop. After everything they had shared, after every promise, after every dream about marriage, she had agreed to marry another man. Ethan searched for words, but none came. His mind refused to accept what his ears had just heard. He finally asked the only question that mattered.
Is there any chance this can still be stopped?
Sophia did not answer immediately. Then she nodded.
And I will try.
Those 3 words became the only hope he had left. But hope came with another truth. The engagement had already taken place. Both families had agreed. Preparations had already begun. Deep inside, Ethan understood what that meant. Some decisions reach a point where they are no longer decisions. They become realities. Still, as long as Sophia said she would try, he chose to believe there was a chance because sometimes, hope is not born from certainty. It is born from refusing to accept that everything is already over.
She promised she would try. The engagement was already over, and Ethan held on to the smallest possibility that everything could still change. But was he holding on to hope, or simply refusing to let go of someone who had already chosen a different future? Sometimes the person asking you to wait is the same person who cannot wait for you.
The days that followed were confusing. Sophia kept saying she was trying to stop the marriage. Ethan wanted to believe her. At the same time, he forced himself to continue living as normally as possible. One morning, a married colleague invited him to breakfast before work. There was nothing unusual about it, just 2 coworkers having breakfast before another ordinary day at the office. Later that afternoon, Sophia called him.
Can we meet?
They met in a quiet parking lot. The moment she saw him, her expression changed.
So you had time to go out with another woman.
Ethan looked at her in disbelief. Before he could answer, she continued.
I am trying to cancel my marriage, and you are having breakfast with another girl.
Her voice trembled. Tears began rolling down her face. Ethan calmly explained that the colleague was married. It was only breakfast, nothing more, but emotions rarely listened to explanations. The conversation slowly turned into silence. Silence became vulnerability. Vulnerability became comfort. And comfort slowly turned into an emotionally and romantically intense moment between two people who still loved each other, yet could no longer see the same future. Hours passed without either of them noticing. Then footsteps echoed through the parking area. An authorized security officer approached them politely.
Sorry, this area is not meant for staying this long. I kindly request both of you to leave.
They quietly apologized, walked in different directions, and carried the same unanswered questions back home.
She was asking him to wait, she was asking him not to leave, yet every passing day brought her marriage closer. If she truly wanted to stay with Ethan, why did everything around her continue moving toward someone else? The hardest choices are not between right and wrong, they are between what the heart wants and what the conscience refuses to accept.
Meetings continued. Not every day, not for long, just enough to keep hope alive. Each time they met, Sophia repeated the same thing: I am trying. She spoke about conversations with her family, about searching for a way out, about not wanting to lose Ethan. He listened quietly. He wanted to believe every word, but another thought continued to trouble him. One evening, he looked at her and asked calmly, if we really cared about the truth, should your fiancé not know about us? Sophia looked away. Ethan continued, if he learns everything after marriage, it could break him. He deserves to make his decision knowing the truth. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Sophia replied, I do not care what happens after he finds out. Ethan remained silent. That answer stayed with him long after the conversation ended. Days later, during another meeting, Sophia broke down again. I am confused. Her voice shook. I do not want to lose you. Then she made a request Ethan never expected. Let us spend one last night together before I get married. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. He loved her, perhaps more than ever, but he gently shook his head. Only if we are getting married. She asked again on another day. His answer remained the same, again and again. He refused, not because he did not love her, but because he could not separate love from commitment. As the wedding day came closer, their conversations became heavier. One held on to hope, the other held on to uncertainty. Neither realized time had already made its decision.
Sophia kept asking him not to let her go. Ethan kept asking her to choose the truth. When love and principles begin pulling in opposite directions, which one survives? Sometimes the last bit of hope survives until a single phone call quietly puts it to rest.
Days passed, the wedding preparations continued. Ethan waited, not because he believed everything would magically change, but because Sophia had once said, I will try. He held on to those words for as long as he could. Finally, he called her. There was no anger in his voice, no accusations, only one question remained. Is there really any chance left? Silence. Then Sophia answered. No, just one word. But it ended more than 2 years of hope. Ethan thanked her for answering honestly. He sat alone for a long time. No tears, no shouting, just silence. That night he made a decision. He wrote 2 long messages, one to her mother, one to her brother. He explained everything from the beginning, how they had met, how their relationship had started, how it had continued even after her engagement. He did not ask anyone to stop the marriage. He did not threaten anyone. He simply wanted his side of the story to exist somewhere beyond his own mind. Hours later, her brother called. His voice was calm. It is over now. Both of you should stop interfering in each other's lives. Ethan listened without interrupting. Then he quietly replied, I understand. The call ended. For the first time, he accepted that there was nothing left to fight for, or at least, that was what he wanted to believe.
He respected their decision. He walked away without another argument. But if the story had truly ended that day, why was the most painful chapter still waiting to begin? Sometimes the silence after a breakup says more than the relationship ever did.
Days passed. Ethan disappeared from Sophia's life. There were no calls, no messages, no attempts to meet her. He kept the promise he had made. He stayed away, but the pain did not. Unable to put his emotions into conversations, he began expressing them somewhere else. His social media slowly filled with thoughts about heartbreak, trust, broken promises, the pain of loving someone who had become a stranger. Some posts spoke about emotional manipulation. Some spoke about people who lied without realizing how deeply a lie could wound someone. He never mentioned Sophia's name. He never posted photographs. He never shared private conversations. Only his thoughts. One afternoon, Sophia saw those posts. Instead of calling Ethan, she called his sister. The conversation quickly turned hostile. Harsh words were exchanged. She called Ethan a psycho. When his sister defended him, the argument became louder. By the time the call ended, both of them were furious. That evening, Ethan's sister told him everything. She repeated every word she could remember. Ethan listened quietly. He did not interrupt. He did not react immediately when she finished. He remained silent for a few moments. Then, for the first time since the breakup, anger appeared on his face. Not loud, not uncontrollable, just quiet anger. He looked at his sister and said, "I will end this, forever." There was no explanation, no plan. Just one sentence, calmly spoken, as if the decision had already been made.
For weeks, Ethan had chosen silence over confrontation. Now, something had changed. What did he mean when he said, "I will end this forever"? Every peaceful man carries two voices inside him. One teaches forgiveness. The other waits patiently for someone to mistake forgiveness for weakness.
The room was silent. Ethan sat alone. No phone, no music, only darkness. Then, after years of silence, a familiar voice returned.
Are you ready?
I do not know. I never wanted any of this. I only wanted the truth. But every time I choose silence, they become louder if I walk away today. Another innocent man may spend years living inside the same lie I escaped. And what if this never ends? What if she keeps finding ways to provoke me? What if every few months another accusation appears? Another lie. Another attempt to paint me as the villain. I stayed silent. I walked away. I respected every boundary. Yet somehow, I am still standing inside their story. I am tired.
You are asking the wrong question.
Then what is the right one?
Ask yourself this: if you remain silent, who benefits? The liar, the manipulator, the one who rewrites history, the one who knows decent men stay quiet because they fear conflict.
I do not want revenge.
I know you never wanted revenge. You wanted accountability. There is a difference.
What if I become the villain in everyone's eyes?
You already are. They wrote that story without asking your permission. The only question left is whether your silence will become their evidence. They will say you are obsessed. They will call you unstable. They will question your character. They will protect their image, not because it is true, because it is useful.
They may file police complaint.
Let them. If they choose lies, they have already chosen war. If they file false complaints, if they bury your name beneath fabricated stories, then every hidden truth will lose its right to remain hidden. They believe lies can protect a reputation. I believe truth owes no one mercy. Manipulation, character assassination, false allegations, half-truths, selective memories, emotional performances. They are merely different masks worn by the same coward. They should have feared the moment they decided to awaken the devil of a simple man. Because I do not destroy people. They destroy themselves the moment they choose a lie over the truth.
Sometimes the most dangerous decision is not made in anger, it is made in absolute calm. Ethan had finally made his choice. But no one knew where he was going next. Sometimes telling the truth feels more dangerous than keeping a secret.
A few days later, Ethan packed a small bag and left before sunrise. His destination was the city where Sophia's fiancé lived. The journey was long. Every passing mile gave him another chance to turn back. He never did. By afternoon, he stood outside the family's home. His heart was racing, not because he wanted revenge, but because he knew one conversation could change several lives forever. When the family welcomed him inside, Ethan spoke before anyone could ask why he had come. I am not here to insult anyone. I am not here to stop this marriage. I am not here to threaten anyone, blackmail anyone, or force anyone to believe me. I only believe that before a lifelong decision is made, everyone deserves to know the truth. The room fell silent. Then, Ethan began telling his story, how he and Sophia had met, how their friendship became a relationship, how they had remained together for more than 2 years, how they had continued meeting even after her engagement. He answered every question calmly. Whenever someone doubted him, he opened his phone. Messages, dates, photographs from trips, conversations, everything remained exactly as it had happened. Then came the hardest sentence he spoke that day. He told them that he and Sophia had also been physically involved during their relationship. Again, no anger, no insults, only facts as he remembered them. He thanked the family for listening, stood up, and quietly walked away. Late that night, after hours of traveling, he finally returned home, physically exhausted, emotionally empty. Believing he had simply done what his conscience demanded, he still had no idea that this decision was about to change his life forever.
Ethan believed he had chosen truth over silence. But when truth reaches the wrong ears, does it still protect the person who speaks it? Sometimes the darkest moment in a person's life does not begin with a crime, it begins with an accusation.
On next day after returning home, Ethan received a call from the police. A complaint had been filed against him. He calmly went to the police station. He believed that once everyone spoke honestly, everything would become clear. As the officer explained the complaint, Ethan's expression slowly changed. Some allegations were things he had never done. Some incidents had been described in ways he could barely recognize. The story being told was not the story he had lived. For a few moments, he simply sat there in silence. He realized something that hurt even more than the breakup. The woman he had loved for more than 2 years had told a version of the story that, according to him, was no longer the truth. Not only to the police, but also to her family. And to the man she was about to marry. Ethan answered every question respectfully. He cooperated with the investigation. He walked out of the station without raising his voice, without arguing, without blaming anyone. People who saw him that day would have described him as unusually calm. But calmness and peace are not always the same. Something inside him had changed. The man who had spent years believing that honesty could solve every problem was now standing in a world where, from his perspective, lies seemed to travel faster than truth. He walked home quietly, no anger on his face, no tears in his eyes, only silence. The kind of silence that appears when a person stops expecting the world to be fair. That evening, he sat alone for hours. Revenge never crossed his mind. Punishment was never the goal. He wanted only one thing, truth. If truth could be buried so easily, then perhaps it deserved to be defended. And for the first time in his life, his mind began preparing for possibilities he had never imagined before.
They believed they had filed a complaint against a simple man. They had no idea that their greatest mistake was forcing a man who lived quietly to stop living quietly. When a man who values truth above everything else begins preparing for war without making a sound, the world rarely notices until it is too late. Sometimes a person does not die when their heart stops. They die the moment they stop recognizing themselves.
The room was silent. Ethan sat alone. The darkness returned. The voice spoke first.
So, it is finally over.
You are looking at the wrong ending.
No, what ended was a simple man, the man who believed honesty always defeated lies, the man who believed silence protected dignity, the man who believed truth eventually spoke for itself. He is gone.
I tried, I respected every boundary, I walked away. I accepted rejection, I accepted betrayal. I accepted losing the woman I loved, but I was never prepared. to lose reality itself.
Tell me what hurt the most. The breakup.
No,
The police complaint.
no,
Then what?
they changed the story.
Explain.
They said I discovered her fiancé by secretly standing behind her and looking into her phone. I never searched. She told me who he was. She shared those details herself. Then the story changed, and suddenly I became the stalker. They reduced our relationship, a little more than a year, as though shortening time could shorten responsibility. But we were together for more than 2 years. 2 years of conversations, trips, dreams, promises. You cannot erase years by changing a number.
A smaller story creates a smaller crime.
They said I took advantage of her innocence. I remember the day I wanted to leave. After learning she had lied, I had already decided it was over. Then she cried. She begged. She said she was afraid. She said she would lose me. I stayed. Not because I was trapped, because I believed tears, because I believed remorse. So, tell me who took advantage of whom? When I met her fiancé's family, I never humiliated her. I never counted. I never used vulgar words. I simply said that we had been physically involved. Nothing more. Later, I was told that my words were being repeated differently, as if I had bragged about sleeping with her a specific number of times. I never spoke that way. But once a story changes mouths, it no longer belongs to the person who originally told it.
Words, they build reputations. They also destroy them.
They never changed facts alone. They changed language, and language changes character. But there was something worse.
I know. The police station.
Her brother looked at me and told me to call her fiancé and his family to tell them everything I had said was false. I knew it was not, but inside that station, I spoke words I did not believe for the first time in my life. I chose a lie over my own dignity. They did not only accuse me, they made me become someone I had spent 30 years refusing to become.
Now you understand.
I understand what?
They never attacked your relationship. They attacked your principles. They knew what kind of man you were. So, they forced you to betray yourself.
Then her family said, "This is not over. It is only the beginning."
They were right. It was the beginning, but not theirs. It is yours.
Her brother said, "We are spending 40 million on her marriage. Tell me, how much would it cost to finish you?"
He did not know he would not have to spend a single cent to finish you. You would destroy yourself without a second thought. If he had killed you, the cost would not have ended with him. His entire family would have paid the price, not in money, but in reputation. Those videos and photos would have spread everywhere. Their family, their relatives, their friends, every one of them would have carried that stain. You dying by your own hands was the cheapest outcome for them. But they are not innocent. They lied, they abused you, they painted you as a monster before the world. They already crossed the line, now it is a payback time.
A simple man died.
Good, because the man who walks out of this room will never again confuse silence with peace.
अब शर्म खत्म। मैं पापी आदमी। अब धर्म खत्म।
The world believes it destroyed a good man. What it actually destroyed was his innocence. Love did not change Ethan. Betrayal did not change Ethan. The accusations did. The rewritten memories did. The lies did. And once a man loses faith, not in people, but in deception itself, every hidden truth becomes a promise waiting to be fulfilled.